Welcome to the Inside Out Podcast. We are here to unearth and unleash the soul of your brand, revealing who you are on the inside, your mission, your culture, your core values, because your brand DNA has the power to fuel your business exponentially. I'm Barbara Yolles Ludwig, and today's guest is a huge disruptor in healthcare and consumer technology. Ishan Patel is the co-founder of Audien Hearing, a bootstrap startup that started in a garage and has grown to be the category leader in hearing health and wellness. And so Ishan created this amazing company. We met at Entrepreneur of the Year. He's a two-time winner. Ishan, welcome.
It's great to be here, Barbara. Thank you for having me.
So, Ishan, I can't wait to jump in and talk about your story. Is so amazing. But before we do, we always kind of ask everyone for a little fun fact. Share something with us that, people don't know about you.
A fun fact about me is that English actually isn't my first language. Gujarati, my native language, was my first language, and my parents sent me to school not teaching me any English, despite the fact that I was born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona. So Ishan
That's
had to
incredible.
learn on the fly
So how'd you learn English?
at school.
At school. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. Well, they say that if you're going to teach somebody a language, they have like massive capacity to learn when they're very young. I know people have taught their kids like 5 languages before they're 6. It's like,
Yep.
I'm doing good to learn like gracias and certain things in certain languages. So that's really cool and very impressive. I also know you're like a foodie and a snowboarder and a lot of other cool things. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, we're here to talk about, here you are running this amazing company. And I'd love to talk about like, was there a defining moment that led you to where you are today with Audien? Like, tell that story a little bit.
I mean, for me, it kind of is always the journey, right? Like I started at a young age, exposed to hearing loss with my grandfather. Um, you know, Early on, you think, does grandpa not like me? Does he not want to spend time with me? Did I upset him? The reality is he was just losing his hearing loss, like gradually, but very seriously. And looking back as a child, you don't know what's going on. And a lot of people sometimes don't realize it. And so like I thought for a while he just didn't like me, even though we were so close for a long period of time. So I would say that was a pretty defining characteristic in my childhood that when I looked back on it, I realized as an adult, wait a minute, he was just suffering and not even realizing how gradually he was kind of losing that hearing. And then I would say trying to get him the help he needed was another really big defining moment because it was
Uh-huh.
one of the painful, challenging, emotionally just upsetting and expensive experiences, right, of our family's life. For him, it was, I want to say, it was like the third most expensive purchase in his life, personal expense, behind a house
Mm-hmm.
to get a pair of hearing aids back then, you know?
Right.
And so that was another big moment. And then the final moment to start Audien, I would say, is when I worked in the hearing industry myself. And I personally helped over 3,000 different families, um, you know, digitally, like via the phones at the time. This is a brand new way of trying to help people online and hearing their stories, all of the good, the bad, the ugly, the laughter, the tears. I just flashed back through my whole childhood, my whole life, and I thought, wow, this is something that everybody is going through, no matter where you come from, what language you speak, what cultural backgrounds you have. Like it is just a universally human condition.
Right. But at a young age, I mean, were you into sports or what were you into that led you to where you are today? Because it is a really impressive story and it's unusual to be the category leader in a category that's really not very developed even today, which is shocking because, and we'll talk about the fact that, 10,000 people every day are turning 65.
Yeah.
Right. And hearing health and hearing loss is part of the aging process. Was there something about you in your ability to envision this as a category to mine? Like, you know, Talk to us. Where did that come from? I get the I mean, I get the story and it's amazing, but, like, you've got something in you, like a fire in your belly that's a little bit different that you did something with it.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I guess in 2 parts, right, which is, like, from my childhood or like, kind of traits that I have,
Yeah.
um, I was told that I've always loved to talk and connect with people since I was very young, and so coming from kind of a multicultural background, but being first generation, Indian American,
Mhm.
I think, like, family time was such a critical element of like you've got a six-seater table and you've got like 14 of us stacked on top of each other, right?
Yeah.
And so all shouting at each other, and I think like from an early age I really internalized those moments as some of the most meaningful moments in my life. And so
Yeah.
as I grew older and started to realize that I love communicating, my parents put me into, thankfully, when I was young, they put me into a program called like Toastmasters, which is
Oh,
effectively
yeah.
the speech and debate program that I was doing when I was, 9 years old. And I think the technical term for it would be huge nerd, right? I just loved to like achieved and kind of be
Right.
challenged, and my parents, being, true Indian parents, they were like, "Well, now you're gonna become a mathlete. Now you're gonna do speech and debate. Oh, you like sports? Well, we're playing basketball," like those types of things. And so
Yeah.
just really being in an environment where anything I thought of, the flame was fanned, so to speak. I remember one time I
Yeah.
came to my dad. I must have been 7, 8 years old. I said, as kids do, "Dad, I can't decide if I want to be an astronaut, the president, or like a doctor," because of course I'm a Patel. So doctor
I'm
had to be,
a Patel, I need to be a doctor.
it had to be in the mix, right? It's in the
Yeah.
programming.
Yeah.
And I remember him looking at me and being like, "Well, why would you choose one? You can just be all three." So like that was a very interesting moment because as a kid, you're listening to your dad or your parents and you're like, "Well, okay, if they're saying that's real, then that's real." You don't have any
Yeah.
thoughts or limitations or,
Right.
any reasons why you couldn't do something like that. So I feel really grateful to my upbringing in that no matter how crazy my ideas were, how
Mhm.
ridiculous things I thought of were, there was always that energy of, well, go do it.
Right.
Go achieve it, right? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the answer to the first part of your question. And then when you go
Yeah.
to fast forward to being an adult, or even a teenager turning into an adult, um, I just realized like I had to do something that helps people. I
Yeah.
had to help put smiles on people's faces or connect with people or do something that allowed me to hear their stories and be a part of their story.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sort of those two traits. When my co-founders later came to me and said, "Hey, this is an industry that's going to change with regulations that are going to allow us to now help people over the counter without a prescription, without a hearing test, to give access to the people who can't afford or access it." It was
Right.
like the light bulbs went off. Like, okay, this is something that's worth throwing my full passion
Right.
behind.
Yeah, I love that because it's like you had this inner drive to help, and then you were able to connect that with something that the world needed.
Yeah, as much as I'd love to pretend like it was my master plan all along, I really think for those listening that are wondering, how to find that within themselves, it wasn't that I woke up with some great understanding of my greater purpose. It was
Yeah.
more that I just refined and knew who I was and just kept putting myself out there, kept trying like a million different things in a million different ways. And when I was younger, society didn't really approve of that. Right. It was like,
Mhm.
well, hold on. Like, you're supposed to just like follow this path, stick with it for 25 years, and then eventually, good things will
Right.
happen and you can buy a house and retire. Right. But I was like, 3 weeks into something, I'm like, "No, I don't wanna do this anymore. I don't like
Yeah.
this." And so people kind of had this judgment of me that like, "Well, you quit early or you're not someone that, like, really wants to commit to anything." But the reality
Yeah.
was, I was actually just really trying to discover who I was and unwilling to put myself in a box that just didn't really fit. So I just
Yeah.
kept trying and trying and trying, and then
Right.
eventually when I came across this and then had my personal experiences with it, it just it like all became clear in a moment.
Was there a moment, like, when you looked at this category in particular, like, how did you and obviously you've got personal experiences, so that played a big part, but to see that wide open space, can you talk a little bit about those early days of birthing Audien? I think it
Yeah.
would be really great for the listeners to hear that because it is an amazing story.
Oh my goodness. It was crazy. I mean, you got three kids effectively, as we like to call ourselves, like 24, 25, 26-year-old founders, the three of us, in a garage in Tempe, Arizona, that our two founding, team members are living in with other roommates that later also joined the company, right? Just all being like, okay, we want to do this thing. We think we can create the first sub $100 hearing aid and bring it to market using, totally new age kind of like digital marketing tactics, but
Yeah,
also to solve an age old problem that has been around since the beginning of time, right? Or beginning of
right.
humanity. Um, and it's like going left and right at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
And we launched the company with less than 500 US dollars, completely bootstrapped it, haven't raised a dollar of capital. We didn't have a dollar. I didn't have a dollar. I was actually quite negative from my entrepreneurial ventures, let's call it, of just trying to find my way, trying to figure out like my kind of my place in the
Right.
world. And then all of a sudden, we launched the company. I had worked in the industry, so I had relationships from a product standpoint and ideas after serving thousands of people. How do we make this better? So, kind of like pitch the idea. Imagine like pitching an idea with no money and being like, hey, so I'm not going to pay you now because I have no money, but I'll pay you after. And this is going to be really big. It was quite an interesting.
Toastmasters must have come in really strong at that
Thanks,
point.
mom and dad, right? So but it was really just like such passion and conviction around it. And the beautiful thing was like the market and people, humanity responded. I mean, within a day, we were obviously first day profitable. Within 2 months, we had crossed, I believe like 10,000 customers.
How'd you sell the first products? What channel?
So we put up with our $482, I believe was something around there was the number. I rounded up to 500. It makes it easier to remember. You know,
Yeah,
we took $100 and pulled together our website. We took another $100 with that. Thankfully, one of my co-founders, Dylan, is great at that. We took another $100. We got like all the software, our Shopify backend, like all the stuff we needed to
right,
like kind of get the platform to be able to sell on.
right.
Another $100 to develop like our ad or our creative, our image and video, like images and video, and then $100 for the marketing campaign at the time on Facebook before it was called Meta, right? So that was 400 of our $482. And then we launched that day on Facebook. And like the response was just crazy. I mean, day one, we got, hundreds of dollars of orders. Day two, it was thousands of dollars of orders. By day 10, it's like $10,000 plus, but we translate it to people, right? So it's like now 100 people a day. And then by,
Oh my
um,
god.
you know, day 90, 3 months in, we're at like 10,000 customers a month still in this garage, and we're fulfilling. And then now we scraped up those first few dollars because we made a deal with the
Incredible.
manufacturer where they would ship it for us like after we pay them after we got the order.
Yeah.
Now we have just like those first few dollars. We're ordering inventory in. It's being dropped off in a pallet in like a residential neighborhood. So people are like, what are these guys doing? We probably look like large scale drug dealers or something like that. You know what I mean? Because it's just like pallets of product coming off. Nobody knows what's going on. It's the summer at this point in Arizona, so it's
So it's like
115 degrees.
120 or 15 degrees?
The asphalt is melting on the other side of our garage door. We're trying to insulate it with like foam. We've got two industrial AC units in there, but the wall is porous. So there's like holes in the wall because we're in a little bit of a rundown garage. We can never get the temperature under like 87 degrees. But in that room, I mean, I've got my shirt tied around my head to like keep the sweat out of my eyes, fulfilling orders with the team. I got one person taking all these customer service calls. So just It was as hectic, but also as beautiful as you might imagine.
What a cool story. And it's amazing because people can still begin something with, a vision, passion, which you had clear passion, and $500 and $500, right? Which is amazing. When did you realize, like, was it in those early days when the orders started coming in, like you realized like this is a movement that's happening, or when did this become kind of clear to you?
I would say that while the speed of growth was exciting,
Hmm.
there's plenty of other companies out there that have had like really hit it from an order standpoint, like a
Hmm.
fad type of product. You think of like, like the fidget spinners of the world type of thing where like it just
Yeah.
like a wildfire. To me, I think the moment was much more related to the people we were helping and learning more about them and hearing their stories and hearing how critical as and essential like our products that we invented were for their daily life.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that was the real moment when I realized this was a movement and not just, you know, right product, right time sort of thing, and that this was
Right.
something that would evolve into a movement that would address a problem that humanity, not just America, not just one culture, but like humanity has not yet addressed, which is the like kind of worldwide epidemic of hearing loss that impacts over 1 billion people directly, right? And that
Hmm.
moment was with a customer named Terry, who is a veteran, you know, in a wheelchair in Raleigh, North Carolina,
Hmm.
who served our country, a wonderful man. Unfortunately, there was an accident, and Terry's
Hmm.
house burnt down. Luckily, he got out. He was unharmed, like thankfully, but he lost everything he owned. Right in this fire, and I mean, it was on the news. He sent us a picture, like burnt to a crisp, right?
Right.
Um, and he called us, I think a day or 2 later and said, "Hey, I've lost everything in a fire." At first, my customer service team was like, "Is this a prank call? Like, what's happening?"
Right.
Such a
Right.
staggering story, and then obviously we saw the news articles, he sent us some more information, and we really, like, listened to his story, and he said,
Hmm.
"Look, I've lost everything I own, um, and it's okay because I'm here. I have my health, and I'm
Wow.
alive." And it was, like,
Yeah.
such a beautiful perspective. He said, "But the one thing I can't live without are my hearing aids. I need hearing aids, and unfortunately, I didn't have them in my ears in the moment when the house burnt down, so I lost my hearing aids in the fire." And he said,
Wow.
"I can't get another pair. I can't afford to buy another pair full price right now. Like, can you help? Like, like, what do I
Like,
do?"
if he has anything that he needed, he needs those hearing aids.
That moment was like that story quickly escalated up to me, like, within the day, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I remember sitting there and looking in the mirror and just being like, "Wow." I was speechless, like, here's a guy who had lost everything,
Mhm.
and he's calling us, asking for a hearing aid, the first thing he needs to live his life, and it was just really, like, brought a fresh perspective that this isn't just something that's
Right.
a nice to have. This is an absolute need to have. So we told Terry's story. We raised some money for him. We Audien matched it. I flew to Raleigh to meet him to deliver him some hearing aids, of course, and a check for $7,000 to get back on his feet, from our company and our
Incredible.
family. So,
That's amazing. What that says is the role that you play in people's lives is so much bigger, right? And I don't think people realize what the role hearing plays until they lose it. And it
yep.
is so subtle. It's not like other parts of your life where, I need glasses. I can clearly see and I
Yeah, when
can
you take your contacts
acknowledge.
glasses off, everything's blurry, right?
Yeah,
Hearing,
yeah,
it's like,
whereas
hey,
hearing is so subtle and you don't realize it, and there's not a lot of awareness around it. Um, but it made me think of, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before. We did some work years ago for Kaiser Permanente. A lot of people on the team, Bill and others, did the Kaiser Permanente campaign. And in that effort, there was some research done with consumers around the notion of, or just the term healthcare. And they showed, they put a bunch of images, in the focus group room and said, when we say healthcare, what do you think? And then they grabbed all the images off the table that were like tubes and sickness and patients and hospitals and kind of
Mhm.
negative imagery. And then they took the word care off and they said, if we just say health, which images do you pick? And they were like, wellness and running and,
Yeah.
you with your dog and all these kind of positive images. And it's very much, reminds me the story of like how important the role of health is playing in people's lives today. And it's really kind of shifting and transforming. As you think about the role Audien plays in people's lives, right? Like Terry's story, but then you
Mhm.
also think about it as a brand, I mean, the whole category is kind of transforming the role of healthcare, marketing, branding, and the way people think about themselves and how they live. And I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts around that.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point. I mean, in internally, we kind of refer to it as like the stigma, right? That
Yeah.
if you're wearing a pair of hearing aids, you're older, you're dying. It's like the tubes concept of like, well,
Right.
that word is associated with all these negative things. But the reality is, we're here to help you live freely and fully. And those
Uh-huh.
that realize what they've lost because you don't know what you're missing until you get it back, like Terry, and then lose it again, right? That's kind of like
Right.
that's how human beings are a lot of the time. You have to kinda lose it to realize what you've lost, and people then say like, "Oh my god, this is something we absolutely
Uh-huh.
have to address." And so when I think of the role of like marketing, branding, and all the kind of the work that you've described, and some of the work that obviously we do together, it's
Yeah.
it is make or break for getting what you described previously, and I agree, the movement to come
Uh-huh.
through. That not only should you not be embarrassed, you should be proud, and you're making a difference when you stand up loud and proud and tell people what you're doing to help your own health because it's a ripple effect. Look at the world now. Look at how
Yeah.
much people are focusing on health now. Look at how much there's more technology, wearables, and health enabled tech, and how what used to be something that we'd all keep quiet under the rug behind closed doors is now like the most vocal and at many points global movement. So that's
Right.
definitely what Audien, like how we see ourselves and how where we're working to position ourselves. And so I mean, I couldn't agree more with the statement, but also that I think of it more than just marketing, like it's like a responsibility. Like when you think about how I was raised and the things I mentioned earlier in my story of my mom and dad being like, "Well, just be an astronaut and the president," you know? Like
Yeah.
that is their version of branding and marketing to me. Like you can do anything and you should not be afraid to do so. And anyone who tells you different, shouldn't be putting you in a box, right? So it's like the same concept with Audien. It's you can
Yeah.
live any way you want and you should not be afraid to do so. And we are here to help you and support you and empower you to do that.
Amazing. And it's so true. And, I mean, then if you take the name of our show, which Inside Out, we named it that because we really believe like who you are on the inside is what you should reveal to the outside world. And it
Mhm.
really goes into creating a company like you did, like who you are, your DNA, the way you were brought up, your empathy towards your grandfather, the
Mm.
things you learned from your parents, the way you conducted yourself and your vision for your life has now manifested into this amazing company. And what I'm curious is, as you're growing the company and building the company, how has that shaped who you are culturally inside the company? I mean, obviously, you're hiring people, you're growing, you're building new products, you're expanding.
Mm.
Um, how have you brought that into the company and that's kind of helped shape who you are and how that's expressing itself to the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in building the company, my culture, like my personal kind of company culture is just
Mhm.
my heart and soul, right? So
Mhm.
in the early days, you kind of just put everything you have into it. You don't even realize how much it weaves into the fabric of everything you do.
Yeah.
And then I think what goes from a personal belief system to like a culture is that as
Uh-huh.
a group of people ultimately coming together. So I would say that the biggest way I've done that is by one, I think leading by example and holding myself accountable to those values at all times and being the first person
Mhm.
to, take responsibility if there's something that misaligns, and show everyone that like we can realign and that's okay. And that
Yeah.
it's okay because, we're all just human beings trying to figure it out. But then the
Yeah.
second piece is hiring for the people factor versus the business factor, right? Of who are the human beings we're bringing in, and do they recognize that at the end of the day, we're a group of people and humans helping other humans first and foremost. And
Uh-huh.
then we layer in all of the business requirements to do that at scale. And, I've had moments where I've hired in the past, an individual with like phenomenal resume, a blue chip as we would call it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and despite that, it just like it wasn't a culture fit, right? And
Yeah.
so really looking within and realizing, not being scared that removing what you think you need for what you know the company needs, it's like
Right.
that's the scariest part. It's like, well, hold on. Well, what if I'm wrong? What do I not know? And okay, what if we should just change? We should just change because people are telling us to change. People are telling us that's better. It's easier. It's more profitable, right? Or that'll make us grow more. Or that's what everyone else is doing. So why don't you
Right.
do it? Right. But then finding the strength and the courage to say, like, no, that's not who we are. That's not why we're here. And we're going to represent what we know and believe, even if it's a left turn when everyone else is telling you to go the other way.
Right. I agree with you completely. And as a founder myself, I think it's really, really important to have a set of core values and quite honestly, the brand vision and the vision for the company be that North Star. Because,
Mhm.
you know, you may not be right for everybody and they're not right for you. And that's okay, right? Like there's some place that is right for them, but you're building something and you need believers who can build it with you, and builders, right? Not everybody's a builder. That's the
Yeah.
other thing I think with the founder mentality, everybody doesn't understand. You're building something and sure, you're almost at 2 million customers and that sounds like a lot, but I know you and I know your vision. Like you're at mile marker 2 of a marathon and you're just getting started and you're the category leader, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So
Two
I
million.
yeah, 2 million is amazing. And I think you're building something extremely special. And that whole notion of we're bringing people together inside our company to be connected against that vision seems to also translate out into what you're building with your products and your offering,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
I always joke like we're at almost two. I remember crossing 1 million customers and saying it, but I'll say it now that we're at almost 2 million customers. It's like 2 million down, 998 million to go. So,
I think there's a song about that.
yeah,
Right?
we barely even started, in that regard.
I know. Well, let's talk about that audience because I think it's a great segue in. Obviously, the boomer audience is growing every single day into um, older adult age, right? 65 plus. And 65 plus, we've talked about it, ain't what it used to be. People are younger, they're acting
Oh, yeah.
younger, they see themselves as younger, like, kind of talk about your perspective on this audience and how you interact with them.
I think what's beautiful about this, like that perspective and the shifting kind of viewpoint of the world is that at 30 years old for me, I can relate to it too. I think it brings all the generations closer together that like we all want to live happier, longer, healthier. And the fact that now at 65, you're really living and acting and thinking like a 40-year-old allows a 30-year-old to live and act and think very similarly. So like
Right.
that's what I really love is I feel that it brings us all together because it unites like different cultures, different ways of thinking around a universal goal, which is like, let's work together to live fuller, happier, healthier lives so that how I feel today and the energy and vitality like I hope to bring to everyday life, I can carry that with me for 100 more years. You know,
Right.
that would be the hope. So I would say that that's the major shift here is that I feel like if we let it happen, if we lean in, pay attention, and kind of come together, we can close these generational gaps that used to be really staggering, right?
Yeah.
And we can allow that to bring us together where a grandson can say, "Hey, grandpa, like I got these hearing aids for you," or a husband and wife can make a decision as a family at any age to say, look, we need to like focus on our ability to communicate and love each other because this is going to affect how we raise our children. It's going to affect how we have a relationship with our children and our own parents. And like we're
Right.
now the intergenerational bridge that's bringing all that together. So I
Yeah.
think that that's really like to me the thing that's the most exciting about this sort of shift that's occurring is that really
Yeah.
while on the age expansion people are you know living longer lives and needing hearing aids at earlier ages, both are true, kind of expanding the market at both ends. It even though that's happening from an age standpoint, like the solutions bringing us closer together.
Yeah. It's interesting because people think of hearing aid as medical device, right? They don't think about glasses as medical device,
No,
you know?
no,
So,
you
I mean,
your
you
glasses
think
says I have eyes and I need to see, and these glasses are my eyes, just like
yeah.
these like our hearing devices are your ears, right?
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's funny that, there's all these misconceptions and stigmas and,
Mhm.
and you're talking about it like it's connecting us all, and, it's a way for us to speak the same language or enjoy each other or live our life, or Terry just live, right, and go every day in his life. As you confront and you interact with a lot of people who are buying your product, like, is there a big misconception out there, or, do they just not understand the role? Why is that stigma still there? You think it's changing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, there's a huge misconception, even though I feel like we're leading that charge and have been
Mhm.
impactful to the scale we have so far, like, it's still so early in that journey because, people want to belong, right? They don't wanna be alone, and the irony is that in order to not feel older or not feel lesser than or not feel put down, they're actually isolating themselves further, and with all this host of health problems that come with it. And like there's this misconception that solving that health problem means admitting that you're old or admitting that like something is wrong with you
Right,
versus means empowering and bolstering your life. Like, look, we all wear comfortable clothes. Okay.
right.
We all wear comfortable shoes. We wear glasses if we can't see, you
Mhm.
know? Like, we brush our teeth to have good health dental health and a nice bright
Right,
smile. Why would we not wear our hearing devices to connect deeply, live longer, have better brain health. And why would we not, frankly, um, not just be proud, but it's kind of like reverse the stigma. Like you're not wearing it. What's your problem? Like it's kind of like
right.
back in the day, people used to never talk about like their secret diets they were on because they were trying to lose a little bit of weight or being. Now it's like, oh my god, it's loud and proud, right? Which
It
is
is
how we
so
should.
loud and proud now. But, I
Yes,
mean, I think that's the thing, is, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of if your hearing is waning or reducing, or, like, I hate to say you earned it, right?
literally.
But you did, like, I always use my husband as an example. I know I've shared this with you, and he got hearing aids recently, and, you could tell he was like, I'm going to wear hearing aids, and I said, and my girlfriend said to him, well, how do you think impacted your hearing? Like, was there a dramatic thing that occurred? And he goes, well, I hunt birds and I shoot guns to hunt. And, she goes, well, wear those hearing aids like the badass you are.
Yep.
right? And then you could see it was like a snap went off in Bill's demeanor. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting hearing aids,
Yeah,
like, I'm getting
his heart
glasses, I'm
should
getting
be.
hearing aids." And
Yeah.
everybody should understand, like, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It makes you better and live more freely, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're really excited to be able to continue driving that mission forward. But I'll admit, it's when people always ask, like, what's the hardest thing? Like, what's the biggest challenge in your company amidst seemingly rapid growing success, right? And I always say that it's the awareness, it's the
Yeah.
stigma that we're actively working as a community and a culture to overturn and to reimagine and reinvent. And but just like every situation, your greatest challenge is your greatest opportunity. And it's
Yeah.
also what keeps me so excited here is that there's just so much work to be done, and so much more impact to be had.
So the company right now is what, 7 or 8 years old?
We launched so the brand Audien was launched
The
March of 20.
Audien brand,
Yeah, so
yes.
let's say it's 6 years old. We
Let's
just
say the
passed the
brand's
6th birthday.
6 but the concept is what, 15 years? 16
Um,
years?
so I mean, I worked in the hearing industry back in 2018, so a few
Yeah,
few more years than that for me, yeah.
yeah. So here you are, you're a emerging brand, even though you're helping 2 million
Mhm,
people hear better. Um, and we started working together. And that's
mhm,
that's a big, bold move as a organization to take it to the next level. And a lot of founders who are, I'll call them stage two, successful, they're doing well, they've got an audience, they've got a customer base, they've got distribution channels or whatever their products or services are. Sometimes they're not quite ready to make the leap to go to the next level. How did you envision taking the next level, investing in marketing and branding and things like that? Let's talk a little bit because there's a lot of founders out there who, will look to you as, an icon in making things happen and scaling and growing.
Well, I can tell you that at a certain point, it becomes bigger than you, right? Like, this is bigger than me, it's bigger than my vision and myself. And so that sort of surrender that like what the seed you've planted is growing, hopefully into a big, beautiful tree. And along the way, right, there are just more and more branches that are going to sprout that have to like grow in the directions they need to grow. And so
Yeah.
bringing on that thought leadership, that partnership, and the willingness to think bigger,
Yeah.
uh, take the swing, I think was something I had to really look within for and was really excited to do. So then
Yeah.
and then obviously, when you think of the vision, the strategy, like the direction that we're going in together, it just gets so exciting because you recognize that what you intended to accomplish is happening, but not the way you thought it would. Right? And
Yeah.
I think that's how it always goes. And you sort of have this force multiplying effect where you bring in different opinions. The term experts I think is overused because obviously if you want a seat at the table, everyone's an expert. It's more just like people who really care, who really see it, and
Yeah.
who are bold enough to imagine how to get it there, and bold
Yeah.
enough to challenge how you've gotten here too,
Yeah.
as not the only way to get there. So I think
Yeah.
it's that kind of nuance, that push and pull, and finding, the
Yeah.
willingness to just like go beyond
Yeah.
and try something new.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I mean, I work with a lot of founders. I'm a founder. There's those moments where you're looking at your business and whatever it is, a service business, a manufacturing product, whatever it is, and you have to make those decisions of when you're going to invest, where you're going to invest, and what's actually going to help you scale. And
Mhm,
and it's scary because you also want to protect the vision that you have, the soul of who you are and the passion that you have and bringing around people who can support and grow that. So it is a really important thing for founders tuning in to kind of think about where can you invest and where should you invest and how do you really take it up a notch? Because like for Audien, you guys are really successful. Like you're doing a lot of really good things. You've got, performance media in place. You've got great product innovation. um, when you're making these decisions, kind of what are you contemplating? Take marketing, for example. How do you take it to the next level?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a really tough question and something that's like, there's an expression that our CEO now uses called like polishing the stone, right? Where you just really have to come in and recognize that like everything can get 1% better and every 1% adds up really quickly over time, much quicker than you feel. It kind of builds this like exponential momentum that you can't see or touch. It's kind of like going to the gym, like day one, you're not going to just come out and be transformed, but like every day stacks up. And then also just having that, where are you trying to go? Like, really, what are you trying to accomplish? I can say 998 million people to go. My goal is to get our devices in the hands of every family that needs them everywhere and to provide
Right.
lifelong support to those individuals so that they don't ever have to go through what my family and millions upon millions of other families are going through right now. Right.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. It's not just here's the solution, it's here's the solution and the service and the connection and the relationship with us. Right. And so
Right.
I always just ask myself, if that's where I'm trying to go, does this serve to get us further along that path? Right?
Yeah.
And like, what can I let go of? Who can I trust to bring it further? And ultimately, that's I think the north star I always kind of hold to when I'm making those decisions.
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it, and it's really important. Um, when you think about your company, do you think of yourself as do you think of Audien as a medical device company? Do you think of yourself like I always say, is Coca-Cola a beverage company or a marketing company?
Yeah.
Rocket Mortgage will say they're a technology company, not
Yeah.
a lender. Like
Yeah.
what do you think of yourself as a company?
That's so funny. I've never really been asked it in that way. And there's almost 2 answers that come to mind. One is like you said, like the technical answer of like, okay, well, you could say we're a health tech company, right? A hearing health company, which
Yeah,
I do obviously believe. I don't think we're just a medical device company, it's so much more. But like when I really think of my company, it's not a business term, it's more of a feeling. It's the feeling that you're not alone. It's the feeling that I get when I'm with my family at the dinner table, everyone's laughing, everyone's smiling, and we're all together. It's those moments that if you're relying, in your final moments on your proverbial deathbed, that you'd be looking back on with a smile. Like, wow, I really had a great life, or wow, those moments in my life, regardless of what it was like, were the best moments. The moments that really, really mattered. Like, that is audience. We are the best moments, the moments in between, the moments that you carry with you, the moments that you recall with a smile on your face when you're falling asleep.
right.
Um, and the moments that really matter most in life. I think that's who we are. We're the
Yeah.
company that helps make that possible.
That's really beautiful, and I love that so much because it it gives people I think what's important about what you just said is people are not buying your product, they're buying into that,
Mhm.
right? They're
Yeah.
buying into those special, joyful moments, the sound of a baby or,
Yeah.
you know
The
the
happy anniversaries, the I love yous, the "How was your
yeah,
day, darling?" Like, "Let's talk," or, "Oh my god, it's been a
yeah,
long since I've seen you." Yeah, like, Audien isn't a med tech company, It's the feeling of being connected.
yeah. Where do you see the company in 5, 10 years?
Oh, I see the company being we're the biggest over-the-counter hearing aid company in the world. I see us being the biggest, hearing health company, period, evolving into sort of that, like, connective health, of delivering globally better solutions with
Mhm.
better I don't even wanna use the word service, with better connection in the most human way that we all want. So you can call
Yeah,
one number, go to one place, and kind of have access to the things you need most that were invented and created with your home in mind, with your family in mind, with your life in mind, not with some, you know, business plan in mind, so to speak.
right. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna turn the corner to something next to here, adjacent to hearing, and that's hair. Let's talk about hair for a moment.
Well,
I know
you can
this
tell
sounds really funny, but
I like
what kind
hair,
of
so
I like hair. I like hair too. Yeah, my hair. I don't know about my hair day today, but let's talk about what kind of shampoo do you use?
Me?
Yeah, we're gonna do a commercial break in a minute, and I'd like
Great,
to know
great.
what kind of shampoo you use.
Honestly, the one my wife very diligently for me, it's like a CBD, infused shampoo. It's a medical technical term I actually don't have memorized, but, I definitely am, like, selective about my hair products, to be fair.
Oh,
If
good, because
if
I
you
want
could
to share with you. Hold on here. Let me grab some product that I want to share with you because this is a new product actually available in Target.
great.
It's called Jupiter, and actually, this is a really cool founder story as well. It's a new product, Jupiter. It's a premium upgrade to traditional dandruff care. It's built by a new generation of founders who are trying to rethink the category from the ground up. So, kind of similar to you rethinking hearing health and
Mhm.
wellness. These are for people who had to choose, something for treating their scalp and maintaining healthy, vibrant hair. So Jupiter, there's, shampoo and conditioner and hydration products. It eliminates the trade-off with clean, clinically proven formulas that deliver real results without the harsh ingredients and medicinal feel that you get from some of the typical drugstore brands.
Mhm.
And it's rooted in science. It's developed with dermatologists and tested on real people, but it's designed to feel really elevated and effortless. So if you're interested, go to hellojupiter.com or go to Target.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, back to Audien and back to the future of Audien. What excites you most about the future of Audien?
I think it's just, like, the possibility of a connected world. The possibility, like, the idea the future of what it would be like if all those billions, literally, of moments in the world right now, billions of moments where people are disconnected, not engaged, not here, missing life. What happens if 1/8 of the global population gets that back? Like, what does that do to the future? How
Mhm.
many more Beethovens and, Einsteins and artists and musicians and so on, like, would we have, you
Right.
know? So
No,
that's
it's
like
huge.
that's a big answer to the question, but,
No, it's a
you know
really big and powerful thought, and it requires a lot of education and a lot of awareness, and certainly your communications become really important. You guys have amazing product, like, your innovation. What I love about your innovation is that not only do you have experts designing your products, but you actually listen to your customers and how they interact with the product and apply that learning to making new products.
Yep.
But the education piece is huge and the awareness is huge.
Yeah.
It's, as you said, it's like a challenge and an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, to make that big statement I just made a little smaller, on, like, what does a connected world look like? I
Yeah.
think the more important point of, like, to each individual is, like, you don't realize how impactful your individual contribution is, right? Like, you taking that step to get audience or giving it to
Uh-huh.
your loved one, like, that dream, that vision I just stated is built upon every person, not just listening, but around the world coming together to accomplish that. And that's how we're connected to our customers too. Like, it starts with
Yeah.
one grandkid listening to one grandparent, one husband and wife, just one pair of spouses connecting, listening, and being like, wait a minute, we need to do this together. We need to help each other. And
Yeah.
that's the snowball that builds and builds and builds. That's sort of the wave, so to speak. And so that's how we run our company. It's if I could go to every household of every person that we've helped and hear their story, believe me, I would. It's not physically possible, but thankfully, with all the technology, artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, transcripts, our sentiment analysis, we are able to have our ear to the ground and our finger on like the pulse, the heart and soul of our customer base to a degree that we just don't see happening anywhere else. And that is what empowers our decision making and also is the North Star that we carry with us every time we make major innovations that disrupt the market.
Yeah. As you look to the future, I mean, hearing, there's so many aspects of hearing, and certainly music has played a role in it. The youth movement that's happening, it seems like hearing health isn't just for older adults. And it should be cool. It should be sexy. Hearing is sexy, right? Listening to music and self-expression or connecting, talking to somebody.
Yep.
Um, as you think about that connected world, you're not thinking of it solely. And I want to make sure our listeners hear this. It's not just about grandma, right?
No.
It's about you on your hearing journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's about all of us and the idea that showing up to a date with your audience in is the sexy move because it means you're there, you're listening, and you care enough to do that, right? Versus
Right.
showing up pretending like you don't have the hearing change or problem and then just missing, whatever you're missing and not even realizing how much you're missing. Like it's just flipping that completely on its head. And
Yeah.
that doesn't matter whether you're you know, 30, 60, or 90. Like
Right.
that applies to all of us.
I mean, going through the discovery process with your team, somebody told the story of, well, my dad didn't want to wear hearing aids because he didn't want to be able, he's, dating, and he didn't want to go on dates because didn't want to, be seen with hearing aids because he'd look old. And she's like, Dad, if you go on dates and you can't hear your date, that's worse than wearing a hearing aid. Like, you're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
be much sexier and much cooler, if you can actually have a conversation with your date.
correct. Yeah, I think that I have a feeling women around the world would agree to the sentiment of like a man who can hear them and listens is much sexier than the opposite.
I know, it's amazing. Well, so as we wrap up, I think, is there something you would say to a young founder, who's got, a vision? Any last words that you might offer them that they can go change the world the way you did, and you are?
I do. It might be it might sound like the opposite of what you'd expect, which the advice I have for any other founders, young, or of any age is fail more. Like, you think you failed? Fail 100 times more. Fail fast, fail forward, and fail proudly because every single step you take is taking you where you're going to go, where you're meant to go. And every time you think you're behind, too slow, too young, too old, too poor, whatever negative thoughts that come in your head, it's the exact opposite. Those things make you who you are and
Yeah.
double down, lean in harder because you will get where you are supposed to go if you never ever stop and you fail more than everyone else around you. People might look at me and hear a winner or perceive a winner, but what they should be seeing is the biggest loser they've ever met because that is how I got where I am today. And that is how I've learned all the critical things that I carry with me.
I think that's like the dirty little secret about founders. People
Yeah.
think, "Oh, you're a founder. You did it. You built something." Like for us, we built an agency, and we're less than 1% of the woman-owned agencies on the planet. But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we failed. We've made mistakes, and we
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
from them, and we improve on them. And I love that. Fail more and fail proudly.
Yeah.
That is the best. All right. Well, Ishan, thank you so much. Ishan, you are proof that when you build something with vision and heart and passion, grounded in that, right? And
Mhm.
rally people around what that vision is, that's way more important than, not to say you shouldn't have a business plan.
Of
Everyone should have
course.
a good business plan. Everyone should run a good, healthy business. But if you really focus on that purposeful, driven vision, everything else kind of finds its way. So
Mhm.
for those of you who are tuning in, go for that dream that you have. Look at founders like Ishan. Believe in your vision, and then just build assets and marketing, communications, team members, core values, culture around that, and tell the world, because that's ultimately what they want to buy into.
Yeah,
So thank you,
absolutely.
Ishan. If you are a older adult, if you are the child of an older adult, if you are somebody who's around a lot of sound, um, get your hearing checked. You know, you can go to audienhearing.com, and you've got to pay attention to your hearing health the same way you pay attention to your eye health and your dental health and your overall health. It's a really important part of who you are.
Mhm.
Audienhearing.com, or go to Target and go pick up a pair of Audien hearing aids. Thank you so much, Ishan.
Thank you for having me.